let's deal with the toxic nation that we live in right now. And this last election cycle, the one previous with Hillary, you were Team Bernie. I never have a problem because I'm not a political operative. I don't really get caught up in partisan politics, but I do think that how we engage with one another as if Bernie and Hillary aren't on the same side in terms of policy. There may be some differences. How do we heal from that rift? Because there seems to be a rift within the Democratic Party. Nancy Pelosi, just by the skin of her hair of her chinny chin chin, did she win the speakership? But that fracture showed something. Like there's something going on, and I see Bowman and Bush and all of these wonderful progressives coming into Congress, and I'm excited. At the same time, it feels like a battle is a brew, and maybe it needs to be. Tell me your view on that.
I mean, one of my spiritual advisors, she always says that chaos is the reordering of things, and we need some reordering to go on. I really do believe that this is a moment. I do see promise in the problem, and we know that democracy is not always pretty. It's not always neat, nice and neat and calm and pleasant. We do need a bubbling up. It's just too much suffering going on in the country to continue business as usual. But this is an opportunity. When you have over 90 million people either uninsured or underinsured, Karen, when you have a government that since March until like this very moment that couldn't come together, Republican or Democrat, to say, what are we going to do for the poor, the working poor, and the barely middle class in this country? People who are barely holding on. They were barely holding on before the pandemic. They show enough, as my grandmother would say, are barely holding on right now. And why do we have to debate whether or not there is a need for the federal government to invest our tax dollars into the people of this nation like so many other industrialized nations? So you are right. There may be a disagreement on how to get there, but if we can first do it, renowned leadership strategist once said, Stephen Covey, seek first to understand and then to be understood. There's so much that people don't even want to just take the time to understand each other's point of view first. And then let's have a robust debate about how we spend more money on the military industrial complex, $740 billion, Karen, out of I think the discretionary budget is about $1.3 trillion. Almost 60% of that particular budget goes to the military industrial complex. But meanwhile, back at the ranch, when we talk about healthcare, when we talk about canceling student debt, when we talk about dealing with the climate chaos, when we're talking about creating a Green New Deal so that we can have jobs for people in this country, then we got a problem.
Yeah.
I don't understand that.
I think
It doesn't compute for me.
No, it makes no sense. Frederick Joseph said, if we just took $1 billion, and then he broke down what that could pay for from the military budget, another $1 billion, what that could pay for, in terms of the debt you're talking about, in terms of the healthcare. And I think he did like $5 billion. If only $5 billion could solve so many of our problems from that budget that, listen, I mean, I love our military. I love our men and women who are out there serving and protecting this nation. But God forbid we go to war. There's just a push of a button. We're all obliterated. How many more weapons do we need? I mean, really?
Really? I mean, that's what it comes down to. And we have more of an arsenal than like the next 10 nations combined. So all people are saying is not to, for our enlisted men and women, absolutely. We got to take care of them. That's our obligation, our duty. But what we're talking about is military contractors, the contractors that keep telling the Congress, we need more of this. We got to have a bigger one of these. We got to do this, got to do that. No, we do not, because you are absolutely right, Karen, that if you push the button, we all done. So none of us should want us to be going to war. Can we just use a little bit of that money on the domestic side of the ledger, not even asking for a lot? And I don't know if you remember, like the latter part of 2020, there was a bill or add on to a bill only to cut the military industrial complex budget by 10%, just 10%, and it failed in the House of Representatives. Now we know it's a whole nother thing of recalcitrance in the Senate, but my God, can we just stand up in the House of Representatives and send it on over there to Mitch McConnell and let him know where we stand and just take it to him? That's what we should be doing and we could be doing. And it's unfortunate that so many people continue to suffer in this country because we can't get a little act right. You know, I had a grandmother who always say, act like you got some sense. None of that is happening right now, or very little of it. I wouldn't say none because there are no absolutes, but we can do so much more. Again, one of the reasons why I want to go to Congress, to help amplify the voices of people, not voiceless, because nobody is voiceless, but to be that champion. You know, I hail from the Shirley Chisholm, Congresswoman Shirley Chisholm wing of the Democratic Party, unbought and unbossed, the Fannie Lou Hamer wing of the Democratic Party. As we know, in 1964, her and her white allies from Mississippi, they took it to the status quo of the Democratic Party and forged their own party at that time, taking it to President Johnson. How about FDR, who said in his time to the wealthiest people, I welcome your hatred. It is time for a paradigm shift, Karen, in this nation. It just is.
And if we're talking about the military, how about we treat people who come back from war, who come back from service, with enough dignity and respect to get proper health care and not have to worry about being homeless. Nobody who serves this country should ever be homeless.
Right.
Nobody who serves this country should not have access to all of what they need to get through their PTSD and their opioid addictions or what have you. No one in this country that serves this country should worry about where their next meal is coming from. And yet there are too many homeless, hungry vets in this country. And that to me is an abomination. So yeah, we got a lot of work to do. I don't know how we get there, though, Nina Turner. And I don't know if Congress is the answer. So, you know, as you think about your vision.
One. Because you're right. There's nobody that is all the answer, but just one of them. Can I add a point to what you said about the military? And our point to that is that if we as a nation allow people who have served or even signed up to serve to languish, then what does that mean for the rest of us? I was just reading an article about 2 weeks ago about how more of our military families are in food lines. Now, we have a whole bunch, millions of families in food lines. But again, at a base level, if our military families and people who have served or who are in the ready position to serve have to struggle, have to beg, have to cajole, then what about everybody else? And that's our point in bringing up the military.
866-801-8255. Nina Turner is here. You know, we broke bread and I was talking about my party and Lincoln strategy with you, and you were, telling me about John Kasich, because I just think strategy is everything. We need to continuously work on strategy because this is, a big experiment that is failing right now. So we need to figure out many different ways. I think we do ourselves a disservice. That's why I love the progressive wing of the party. I also think we need to have folk in the Republican Party, a lot of folk, pushing that. They should not go unchecked. Lindsey Graham should never run unopposed. Mitch McConnell should never run unopposed. There should not be a single Republican in this country running unopposed. We should have candidates running in every primary. That's how I feel about it. Now, as we get there, how do we get people to shift how they see this as a tool as opposed to an identity? Because I feel like there's a lot of identity politics going on.
Well, what you're doing and what you have been doing for a long time is one way. It's to open up that dialogue and, encourage people's courage. And that was not a quote from me. Sister Rosario Dawson said that one time at an event we were at in 2016 as we were traveling the country. She said to a group of people, I am here to encourage your courage. And that's what you do, Karen Hunter, on a regular basis, not just on your show, but your publishing company, how you get the message out. And we need more people from all walks of life. It just doesn't have to come from leaders in the political ministry, if you will. It can come from grassroots leaders. We need to encourage each other's courage because we all have agency. And we should be able to use that agency as we see fit, as long as it's not harming somebody else. That's how I see it. But far too many leaders across the spectrum want to shut people down if they don't 100% agree with them. Well, I don't know about you, but I've never met anybody, not even my husband, who I 100% agree with. And if the prerequisite for relationship, and I'm talking about true relationship, you briefly mentioned Governor John Kasich. Now, he is a conservative and I am a progressive. If you were to check the record, probably 99% of the time, we were in some disagreement. But you know what we came together on? And this serves as an example that when Tamir Rice was shot on that playground, and I called the governor, I said, Governor, we can't just sit back here and do nothing. People need to know that people are in pain and that we are willing to do something about it. And that's how the Ohio Task Force on Community Police Relations was formed. Did we solve every problem? No, but we didn't just sit back and let things happen and not answer the cries of the people. That's just one example. So to your point, absolutely, we should have people everywhere lifting their voices. That is what a representative democracy is about. It's not about drowning out voices or trying to take away people's agency or saying I'm going to cancel you or dismiss you just because you and I don't agree with one another. Something is wrong with that. And there are too many leaders, particularly elected leaders, who like it like that because it benefits them. And that's why I wrote, we rock together, whether we agree on every issue or not. Your boldness. So we need more people like you, Karen Hunter, who are willing to have those kinds of conversations and who have boldness.
Do you, I asked this of Michael Eric Dyson, how do we hold the Biden-Harris administration accountable? And what 3 things can we get done with them over the next 4 years?
Oh my God. Well, one of the I would like to see marijuana taken off of Schedule 1. It is.
How about legalized federally? How about legalized federally?
No, that's yeah.
Okay.
Yep. You're absolutely right. No, I was going to go to that. We got to decriminalize and then legalize. Absolutely. Catch up with the states. And then not only that there is real federal policy that is an economic driver for the African-American community in particular, communities of color by extension. And I say the African-American community in particular because the war on drugs hurt our community disproportionately the worst. And so it's not just enough to decriminalize and then legalize. We got to make sure that the African-American community get in on some of that economic action, if you know what I mean. We are not there. It's going to be a limited time for the African-American community in mass to get engaged in that from the economic side. We must deal with climate chaos. We have no time to play. We only got one Earth. And if we don't take care of that, all the other things that we talk about, whether it's race, gender, economics, defunding or canceling student debt, none of those things. We can do none of those great things if Mother Earth implodes. And because of the acts of human beings, the whole ecosystem is in jeopardy, and we got to do something about it. And not only can we do something about it, we can create green jobs at the same time. And this is something that is not just the responsibility of the United States of America, it is the responsibility of the entire world. We can actually do something that has world implications when we think about the Green New Deal and how we are world leaders on climate chaos. And $15 an hour minimum wage, Karen. Now, if wages had kept up with or kept pace with inflation, those real wages would be closer to $25 an hour than they are to $15 an hour. But can we start somewhere? And then making sure that federal contractors are not stealing wages, as some of them have done across administrations. So there are many things that the Biden-Harris administration can do coming out of. How do we hold them accountable? Well, we the people need to hold not only them accountable, but every single elected official accountable by their works and by their deeds, not just what they say. It's too much suffering going on. We ain't got time to play games. Our hair is on fire. Karen, I was told a long time ago, if your hair is on fire, act like your hair is on fire. Well, my hair is on fire right now, and the people are suffering. The poor, we can't be afraid to say the word poor, working poor, and barely middle class in this country. They need to see their material conditions change. And if the Democrats win the Senate, that Georgia race on the 5th, so that means we'll have the Senate, the House of Representatives, and the presidency. All excuses are gone.
As
far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, because we've been here before and do a whole lot. So now's the time to do a whole lot.